Hello, everyone. Welcome to Isolation Libations, episode 20. Happy Friday, everybody. It's Friday. Hey, I know Friday has a little different meaning now in this time, but you know what? There's no reason you still can't make a nice cocktail, listen to some fantastic music from Brian Chartrand on his Happy Half Hour every weeknight, 5 o'clock West Coast time. And that's facebook.com, Brian Chartrand Music. There's a backslash in there. I think you can figure it out at this point. I'll put a link for it, obviously, in the notes for this show as well. So, once again, in case I didn't say it, and in case you forgot, I'm Joey Joyce. I will be your bartender. And as I did yesterday, I'm coming to you from a board, my fancy new inflatable stand-up paddleboard from Blackfin, which I've christened the SS Valerie June, one of my favorite singers. So, enough about that. Let's talk about cocktails on a lake. It's nice. Yesterday we did the champagne cocktail, which again is arguably one of the very first cocktails ever made. Real simple, just your champagne, sugar, spirits, not spirits, sugar, bitters, and a bit of citrus in the peel. So again, cocktail definition: spirits, bitters, sugar, water. That's it. That's a cocktail. So the one we're making today is the old fashioned. That's about as basic and simple as a cocktail as you can get. However, I would say that you can go to any bar, visit any bartender, and all their old fashions are going to be a little different. If you were to order an old fashioned in, say, the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, some places still, it's going to be an orange slice, one of those bright red, I will call those maraschino cherries, sugar cube, that all muddled into like this fruit cocktail slurry, maybe some Seagram 7 or Canadian Club poured in, bunch of rocks, soda water, boom, there's your old fashioned. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that's how it was done. Some people like that, some people don't. Either way. Then you get some like real strict kind of purists, and we'll do whiskey, a couple dashes of bitters, maybe a rock, maybe a little splash of water, probably no sugar, and that's it. And that's their old fashioned. That's fine too. Again, time and a place for everything. The cocktail or old fashioned that I'll be making for us today is from my most recent bar home, Livestock Tavern. So some of you who are watching probably know me from bartending at Livestock Tavern or Lucky Belly or the Chin Chin Bar, all of which are in Chinatown, Honolulu, Hawaii, and they're all across the street from each other, and they're all part of the Breaking Bread hospitality group. So I would bounce around from there. But any of those three places you went, if you ordered our signature old fashioned, this is how we would make it. The whiskey that we would have used, though, would have been one of our signature single barrels. We're fortunate enough to get to select our own single barrels. A lot of distillers have that program now. So it's cool. You get, a one-off barrel that's only yours. They'll put, a little custom label on it. And it's a real cool way to have a whiskey that no one else has. And so we would always do that. We started with the Knob Creek Bourbon. We did Buffalo Trace. We did Breckenridge. We did Savage and Cook. We did a Knob Creek Rye. And then the one that I wish I could be using today is the one that I was fortunate enough to get to go to Kentucky and blend, the Maker's Mark, our private select. Thank you to Beam Suntory for flying me out there and letting me do that, and everyone at Livestock Tavern for letting me do it too. I hope you like it. But I don't have a bottle of that. I wish I did. Thomas Tarpley, Jesse Cruz, Justin Sugita. Hey guys, want to send one to Bend, please? But in lieu of that, I'm gonna be using one of my other favorite bourbons, especially for an old fashioned, Old Grandad 114. If you are a fan of bourbon and you don't have the Old Grandad 114, what are you waiting for? Go get it. It's so good. It'll set you back under $30. It's 114 proof. It packs a punch. It's also a high rye blend. So real briefly, we can get into this another time. Bourbon by law has to be 51% corn, and then the remaining grain is going to be barley, and then either rye or wheat, typically rye. But within there, obviously, you have flexibility. That 51% corn is just the minimum. You could go, up to 98. I think technically you could go 100%, but there's some, again, we'll get into that later. Just being said that this has more rye in it than a lot of other bourbons will have, which gives it a little bit more spicy character. So that higher rye, the spicy character, combined with the proof of 114, makes it a pretty burly bourbon. And the reason why I want to use that for this old fashioned is that this is a full-bodied old fashioned. It does not skimp on the flavor. So typically, if you're making just a straight ahead old fashioned, you'd be using like a simple syrup or sugar cube. For this, well, my writing's smeared. We're using maple syrup as our sweetener. This is a 2-to-1 ratio, maple syrup to water. The reason for that, it's a lot easier to work with. It pours nicer. It dissolves quicker and faster in the cocktail. It's just easier to work with, especially like in a bar setting. You don't want to be like waiting for the maple syrup to pour if it's cold, and then you're trying to like wipe it off your spoon, and it slows the process down. So just making that 2-to-1, this will last indefinitely. Just keep it refrigerated, and yeah, I recommend doing that. And then the other, whereas normally you would probably use like Angostura bitters, excuse me, we're using, oh, bottle's wet, the Fee Brothers Whiskey Barrel Aged bitters. Now these bad boys pack a punch. They are very heavy, like on the cinnamon note. They're not subtle. So if you were to use like an 80 proof, like Jim Beam or you know, just a lighter, or like a Yellow Label Four Roses, if you were to use that whiskey with this bitters and the maple syrup, you would taste maple syrup and whiskey barrel aged bitters. You wouldn't even taste the bourbon. It would totally overpower it. It'd be way out of whack. So if you are using a lighter bourbon, something that's 80 proof or anything that's below 90, definitely stick with just like a little bit of simple syrup, like real light on that, and just a couple dashes of Angostura bitters. That way you can actually still taste the whiskey, unless you just want to drink bitters, and you can do that too. But just a heads up, the Fee Brothers stuff doesn't have alcohol. It's non-alcoholic, whereas Angostura does. So don't drink this straight, but try a shot of Angostura bitters. It's delicious. All right, I'm wandering because I'm floating, so my thoughts are floating on the water as well. What else do I have to say? Oh, I apologize for my spread eagle posture. It's kind of the only way to sit on a surfboard and make a cocktail, I've found. Maybe I'll get like real limber and do some like yoga pose, and you know, try that later. See how long this goes. All right, so let's get started before all my ice melts, because it's a beautiful day out here in Oregon. Holy moly, I'm on Subtle Lake. It's fantastic. It's like 70 degrees, which feels hot to me now. Crazy. So let's start it out with the bitters. We're gonna add the bitters first. This is the brand new bottle, haven't used it yet. So I say 3 dashes, let's see how it goes. That actually came out about right. Again, these are real strong. You can easily overpower whiskeys, even as something as high proof as the Old Granddad 114. So gentle on those bitters. And then our maple syrup, call for a bar spoon. Now, not all bar spoons are created equal, right? They're all different sizes. I've got my beautiful Sertoto Copper company. I'd love to plug those guys. So a bar spoon is relative. I wish I could, maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon. I don't know if you can see how much is in there. Not that much. I want to taste the whiskey. You know, the sweetener is just an accent. Should not be the star. And that's a problem sometimes with those orange peel muddled and cherry muddled old fashions. You don't even taste the whiskey. You're just getting all this sugar. Unless that's what you want, but that's not what I want. And this is my drink. This is my surfboard. I make cocktails how I want them. Is that too aggressive, pointing the knife at you? I'm sorry. All right. Again, careful with the knife on inflatables. Orange. You want this orange peel, as little of the white pith as possible. See how well I can do this. Floating on a lake. It's kind of lame, a little small. I'll probably do a second one. So again, you're just expressing that oil like we've done on top of other drinks, but you're just expressing it into the tin, or you're mixing glass. Keep calling it tin, it's copper, but you know what I mean. Stop picking on me. There's a mightier peel. And so this is just putting some of that orange oil into the drink. Not everyone does it. I feel like I learned it from Dave Newman at Pint and Jigger. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong if you don't do it that way, but that's the way I've been doing it for years now, and I feel like I got it from you, but I like it that way. So I'm gonna keep doing it. Now, our fantastic Old Grandad 114. Okay, quick trivia question. Has anyone ever had Basil Hayden's, the bourbon? Or I guess they have the rye too. That handsome gentleman, Old Grandad, is Basil Hayden. Yeah, Old Grandad was started by Basil Hayden's grandson. So there's your little whiskey trivia. Okay, so we're gonna go 2 ounces of your high proof bourbon or rye. Cool. And ice. This is my fancy Coors Light, or no, just Coors Original, excuse me, Colorado Kool-Aid ice holder. Hopefully that's enough. And then stir. I feel like I should do this like somewhere right in the crotch. It's weird. I apologize. No. Now for this one, I definitely don't have to stir too much because my ice is melting. It's hot, not like it's a cold day. And you're going to, again, make sure, dump your ice out, or your water from your ice. Strain that bad boy. Come back for another orange peel. For some of you, this might be overkill on the orange peel. I like it this way, but if you think it's too much orange flavor, you can skip one of those orange peel steps. So again, express it over the top, wipe your rim so you get that nice orange oil all over you, and it's amazing. I like to put it in there. And finally, a cherry. I know I keep dissing cherries. It looks kind of sad. These are not maraschino cherries. I forget what kind they are, but I soaked them in a little brandy and they're all right. But an old fashioned, I feel like you gotta have that cherry in there, right? Let me adjust my lighting so I can cheers you all. So again, happy Friday. Please watch Brian Chartrand's Happy Half Hour. Support live music. His music is fan-friggin-tastic. I think he might play some James Taylor, Country Road, Take Me Home. I asked if he knew Wagon Wheel. I feel like that song's been played a bit too much in this world. I used to really love it, but it's a little overplayed. However, that was kind of an inspiration song for Livestock Tavern, so it would have been fitting, but I think Country Road, Take Me Home. Wait, is that the right song? I hope so. Anyway, whatever you play, Brian, it's gonna be perfect, just like this delicious Livestock Tavern style signature old fashioned. Cheers, everybody. Ooh, let's make another one. Until Monday.